Welcome, everyone, to this special webinar about studying in the UK, specifically business master's programs on offer at Manchester, Edinburgh, Leeds, and Newcastle universities. I'm really excited to be joined today by current students at each of these institutions. And we have a whole set of questions that we're going to work our way through. But let me first just do some really quick introductions. So first up, I just wanted to introduce, we've got Reese Jessup. She's a current student at Edinburgh. So, hey, Reese, thanks for making time today to join us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. We're also going to hear today from Carlos Amaraz Rosales. Welcome, Carlos. He's a current student at Leeds.
Hi, nice to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. We also have Hannah Lawrence. She's joining us from Manchester University. Thanks, Hannah, for making time.
Thanks for having me.
And finally, we've also got Bilal Haider. He's a student at Newcastle University who's going to talk about his experiences there. Thanks, Bilal, for making time.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure being part of this.
So, what I wanted to do first is kind of starting at the beginning. I wanted to just kind of hear a little bit more about where each of you are from, what you studied as undergraduates, and also if you could just sort of give us some of the detail around the current master's program that you're pursuing. And again, the purpose of this session is really for folks considering study in the UK, to just get a better sense of like how you guys landed there and what you've chosen to study. And we'll get into a lot of the interesting facets of the school experience. So we'll just go in alphabetical order by school name. So we'll start with Reese. So Reese, yeah, tell us a little bit about where you're from and what you're studying and how things went as an undergrad and what led you here.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. I am from California. However, I've spent the last few years living in New York. I moved out there for undergrad, where I studied international politics and public policy, and then spent a couple years out after undergrad working and have now transferred back into the educational realm, studying global strategy and sustainability within the business school at the University of Edinburgh.
Excellent. All right. Perfect summary. I also want to ask the same question of Carlos. So take us through the same question here.
Sure. I come from Mexico, from a place called Guadalajara. I graduated as a mechatronics engineer and previously studied an MBA. And currently, I'm trying to specialize in a master in science in business analysis and decision science, which is kind of a mix between data analytics and behavioral psychology at the University of Leeds. Pretty interesting stuff.
Excellent. All right. Can't wait to hear a little bit more about that as we go through here. Hannah, you're up. So tell us a little bit about the journey that led you to Manchester.
I am from Michigan and I have an undergraduate degree in marketing, and I spent a few years in corporate and then ended up deciding to go back to school to study business psychology. Also works closely with organizational psychology in the UK, and I ended up at Manchester, and I love it.
All right. Excellent. Yeah. I can't wait to hear more about each of your kind of experiences in these programs. But let's first hear from Bilal. Tell us a little bit about the journey that's led you to Newcastle.
So originally, I'm from Lahore in Pakistan, and I completed my undergraduate degree in architecture from Comsats University back home. And currently, I'm pursuing an MSc in project management. And I simply chose this program to develop my leadership, planning, and delivery skills that apply across industries to not just limit myself to one technical field.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. And this is something that I always love to talk about, which is that I feel like um, all these different business degrees, and the different sort of specializations are still incredibly flexible. Unlike some other disciplines that people study, like when you go to law school, you're kind of going to be a lawyer, right? If you go to business school of any flavor, whether it's marketing or project management, there's still so many things that you can do. It's such a great sort of flexibility. All right, Reese, back to you. I want to ask you this question, which is, when you think back to when you first started applying to pursue a master's, what led you to the UK? And then subsequently, how did you sort of narrow things down to Edinburgh in your case?
Of course. So when looking at grad school, after I finished undergrad, I knew I wanted to go back to graduate school at some point, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to study. So I did take a few years off to join the workforce, and through that experience, I was working at a law firm, specifically doing marketing, supporting our regulatory attorneys, and I found the interaction between government and business really interesting, both where that conflict occurs and how that can create negative social and environmental impacts, but also how when those two things work together, positive outcomes can be achieved, and how business itself can be a force for positive social and environmental outcomes. And I found that really interesting. And so that kind of led me to start looking at programs focused on sustainability. And that's how I did come across the University of Edinburgh. And during that search, some parameters was that I did know that I wanted to study abroad. So I was looking specifically at programs outside of the US. I wanted to have more of a global experience and just experience living in a new city. So that kind of narrowed down the places that I was looking at, especially since I don't have strong foreign language skills. And then just kind of communicating with the admission teams at some of the universities that I was looking at helped further narrow down that choice. And in the end, decided that the University of Edinburgh was the best choice for me based off the location in the program.
Yeah, it's funny you're talking about the sort of wanting to go abroad and have an international experience, and I think it's something that's, kind of underplayed. This idea that these programs are so international. I love it when American schools sort of say we're international. They have like maybe 20% of the students are non-American, or maybe 30%. I feel like any of these programs, it's like a little UN. It's just people from everywhere in these programs. So that makes a lot of sense. And also your point about sustainability and that intersection between government and business is one that, you see even in the core curricula of most business schools, there's usually some required coursework on this intersection, and it's clearly an important thing. So very interesting stuff that you're pursuing. Let's turn to Carlos. Same question for you, Carlos. So, think back to when you first contemplated application. How did you decide to look at the UK, and specifically what led you to Leeds?
Well, given a little background, just like Grace, I had been working on private industry for some time. By the time I decided to go back to school, like her, I had also decided that I wanted to do something different regarding the new stage of academic work. I wanted something out of the country, especially in a place where I could get in contact with a lot of people of different backgrounds from all over the world, and the UK is especially a good focus point on that. The amount of people I have met here is amazing, and all these new ideas I have that have challenged me. It's incredible. And regarding the school, I knew I wanted to be a really, really good school, and the UK has a lot of those. Leeds specifically has very good. The programs on Leeds have a really good mixture between academic and practical work. Being part of the Russell Group also gives me access to these connections with other Russell Groups universities, and it is also a very affordable city, so it makes it also comfortable for the students. That's why I ended up choosing it.
Yeah, and you're hitting on a couple of really important points. So number one, the Russell Group, for the Americans in the audience who don't maybe know, is it's sort of like the U.S. Ivy League. I mean, it's a group of the most prestigious institutions in the UK. It includes all four schools that are with us today, as well as a few others that are kind of household names too. And so it's obviously there's a real value, I think, in attending a Russell Group institution. And the other thing that you're mentioning is, this idea of kind of wanting to live in a place that's sort of affordable. And I think, all of the cities that we're hearing from today are very affordable, very really good, what I would call kind of university towns in some respects. There's large student populations, and we'll get into a little bit more on that. But really excellent points, Carlos. Appreciate that. Let's turn to Hannah. Hannah, why don't you tell us a little bit about, think back to when you were applying and what led you to Manchester?
Yeah, so I feel like I have a very similar story as Reese. After studying marketing, I fell in love with my internship that was business psychology. And I knew I was going to pursue that, but at the time there was nothing available without going to grad school. But I needed some time before, after COVID, to get my feet wet in corporate world first. And so after spending 4 years in corporate, I decided I didn't like how everyone was treated in the workplace. And so I really had this passion for people being treated fairly in corporate that I knew I wanted to pursue a degree in business psychology. And so I really looked at schools and universities that studied and had great university ratings, but also business psychology specific. And I came across University of Manchester, who had a smaller program, but a lot of professors. So even though the program is only 60 students, there are 15 professors who are involved in the program itself. And that was very important to me, I think, to have that much opportunity for professors and people in education who knew what they were studying and were passionate about it as I was. I also knew from the beginning I was going to study abroad as well. And so looking at University of Manchester was super easy after kind of dwindling it down that I liked the UK. And then I decided to apply because also I learned about the Russell Group and I thought that that was something that made it even better for me. And the group is so international that, like you said, it's just so amazing the people you meet because of all of the international bodies. It's not just one type of person in an area.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Bilal, tell us a little bit about your experience and sort of deciding on the UK and specifically Newcastle.
So, when I was looking for a further degree after my bachelor's, I was looking at different countries, like as you mentioned, Ivy League in the US, G8 in Australia, and then the Russell Group in the UK. I want to look at the stronger global representation and the practical and industrial aligned nature of different master's degrees, and UK was aligning with my career goals. Because moreover, it also has a 1 year master's degree, which was kind of like a surplus for me because an architecture degree is like 5 years. So I always thought I was being held back in year compared to other degrees. So what basically attracted me to the MSc in project management at Newcastle University was the focus on real-world applications and critical thinking with professional skill development. So the university's academic structure was actually pretty amazing once I looked at it, and the international learning environment made it an easy choice for me to go for Newcastle University. So yeah, it basically just aligned with my career goals.
Yeah, and you're talking about something else. There are these little sort of pieces coming out from each of your comments, but one of them that you're mentioning that's really interesting to me is the sort of notion that these are pretty efficient degrees, like they're 1 year. And a lot of the degrees that people pursue in similar subject areas in, say, the United States are often like 2 years long. And so there's a real efficiency, and also, as you're echoing the kind of international nature of these programs and the reputation, makes a lot of sense. Reese, I want to go back to you with a new question. And this question it's kind of, it dovetails well with what we've just been talking about. And this is more about the academic experience. And so I wondered, yeah, how would you describe the academic experience so far? Specifically like the teaching style and even workload compared to what you experienced in undergraduate. So yeah, care to comment on those things? I know you're probably in the middle of the semester here, so you're probably pretty busy.
Yeah, about halfway through right now. We have a reading week, so in the middle of quite a few assignments. But overall, I have found the program rigorous yet still manageable. You can definitely manage a part-time job, other extracurriculars on top of it. At least in my experience, that has something that's been something I've been able to achieve. Um, In terms of the program structure, a lot of the courses are lecture style, but there often is either a seminar or tutorial component that goes along with that, where you do tend to have a uh, more of a chance for interactive learning, whether that's group discussions, workshops on group projects, or on final assignments. So there is kind of a mixed mode there that I've found really beneficial. In terms of final assessments, my program does have a lot of group projects, which I've come to enjoy. Obviously, that does come with certain challenges when you're working with lots of different people and different work styles, work habits. But I feel like that's probably where I've grown the most through this program, learning to let go of control at times, but also learning how to work with people from all over the place. And since it is such a global program, it's been really exciting to learn from my classmates through those projects. Everyone has such a diverse background, whether that's finance, business, environment. So to learn from each other on those projects has been a great experience.
Yeah, and I feel like you're commenting on a hallmark of a good business school experience, which is, working in teams with others. And yeah, those individuals are all going to be different from different parts of the world, different character, personalities, et cetera. But this is exactly what you probably find in the workforce too, when you're put into a company and you have to work on different teams. So I think that's probably a really good exercise to engage in. Carlos, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it's been like at Leeds academically, and yeah, what are your impressions? How does it compare to your undergraduate experience? And yeah, any thoughts you want to share on this?
Oof. Well, I would like to start saying that, of course, because of the reputation Leeds and the rest of schools have, it's obviously very high level, very demanding. Like Reese mentioned, is nothing that you cannot manage, even with a part-time job and extracurricular activities. Uh, However, what was a cultural shock to me, because the educational system works a little different back in Mexico, is how independent the system is. Meaning there is like really a lot of self work you have to do in order to get these things done, which really pushes your research skills and your uh, self teaching skills, which has been a challenge, but one I have really enjoyed because it's one of those things that really pushes you to grow.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And I also think some of it is, the move from undergraduate to graduate level education. I think there's a little of that happens, but yeah, interesting. But it sounds like it's been a good challenge. Hannah, let's turn to you and hear a little bit about the academic experience at Manchester.
Yeah, so I would say that it is a very rigorous program, but I would also say rigorous in the best way. It's very manageable with a part-time job and extracurriculars, but you do have to pace yourself and do a lot of self time management. I think more than in undergrad. There I don't have as many group projects. I have a few, but my program is very based on exams, and I do think that the exams are different than in the US. You have a lot more time to study before an exam. We had a 2.5 week period that was just for studying for exams, and then you would have your exam. And I really appreciated having that extra time. And I think another differential between undergrad and graduate is I do not miss the busy work. There's no busy work. It's all work that matters and will go to your final grade. And I think that is so beneficial because everything I'm learning is important and matters in aspects of career, but also for the final or your final project. And I really appreciate that. And that's so fun to learn in that type of setting.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. Bilal, how about you? Tell us a little bit about Newcastle, the academic environment.
So the teaching style here is actually much more different when compared to my undergrad experience. It's much more application based, more practical based, and there's a strong emphasis on case studies, group projects, and independent thinking, as mentioned before. The workload, yeah, it is intensive, but as Reese mentioned, it's nothing you can't really manage because it's all about time management. You can may take part in societies and clubs. You can like do part-time jobs. because the entire curriculum it's structured in a way that mirrors real life project environments, which makes learning a very relevant experience.
Yeah, it sounds you guys are making me want to go back to school just hearing about this and all the, especially because I do feel like all these programs do quite a bit of practical application. And all right, but let's move on. I wanted to ask a question now, more of a practical question actually about like getting settled in the UK. So for instance, Reese, we'll go back to you, but what was it like to move to the UK and maybe like what surprised you? What was easier than you expected? And is there anything that you enjoy most about kind of your day-to-day life in the UK and Edinburgh specifically, maybe? And, is there like a favorite spot that you've located in town or on campus that you enjoy hanging out in?
Of course. So I have studied abroad in the UK before. I spent a year in London during my undergrad. So I feel like a lot of the logistical um, components that go into all of that, getting a visa, setting up a new phone, that kind of stuff I was familiar with coming in. However, I had never been to Edinburgh before moving here to start my program. So I wasn't quite sure what to expect, and I've been so pleasantly surprised. It's such an incredible city. I feel like it has the perfect mix of the best parts of being in a city in terms of theater, events, great restaurants, but then it also has great nature as well, whether it's enjoying a day in the meadows, hiking Arthur's Seat, or taking a bus to Portobello Beach. There's just so many ways you can get out and enjoy nature while still kind of being in the hustle and bustle of a city. In terms of my favorite spot on campus, I love Old College, specifically the law library. It's a beautiful study spot, and then going into the courtyard is always nice for a snack, and that's where we have our tree lighting ceremony over Christmas. So it's a fun hub on campus that's very picturesque and makes you just kind of let out a breath of relief when you're feeling a bit stressed.
All right, now everyone's going to want to go to these cities. I know as we go through this, that's what's going to happen here. But tell me this, just quick show of hands. How many of you had been to the city and the campus before you matriculated? So Reese is saying she just went without having been. Did anyone go before? No. All right. So leap of faith. That's great though to hear. All right. Let's turn to Carlos. Tell us a little bit about what was it like kind of moving, getting settled into the UK? Anything that surprised you and then don't forget to tell us about a favorite spot.
Well, unlike Greece, I haven't been able to live abroad long term. So this is my first time. I really thought it was going to be more complicated than it actually ended up being. Of course, the whole setting up a new phone and all the paperwork, it's a hassle, but it has to be done. But I feel, at least in my experience, the UK makes it so easy for students that honestly, I never felt stuck at anything, and I never felt that any of these changes were too much for me to handle. The school has, and I'm sure this is the same for all the rest of the schools, have a wonderful support system for students, especially international students. I really love the campus. The city has a really good mix of being this kind of um, modern kind of nightclub type of city, but also having like this a lot of green areas, parks, walking around nature. So I really love the balance. It's a really walkable city. You can go walking everywhere, which I really love. It's a very different experience for me. As per the campus, I really love all the installations, the buildings, the history. Brotherton Library is just amazing. When every time I enter them, I feel like I'm entering into a movie. I love studying there. I feel really smart when I'm studying there.
That's terrific. Yeah, now I'm picturing each of your campuses having some, very old building with a fancy library that makes you feel smart, as Carlos points out. But it is good to know. I will say, the UK is world famous for welcoming students from all over the world, right? So I'm not surprised, Carlos, to hear that you're saying that it wasn't so hard to kind of come because they just seem to have a very great sort of plan in place to get people, settled in nicely. Hannah, tell us your story. What was it like getting settled into the UK? And yeah, anything that you love about, a favorite spot on campus at Manchester or anything that surprised you about this sort of, relocation?
So I had not visited Manchester before. So I came in, I felt very good about the transition because Manchester had so many webinars and step-by-steps instructions on how to get a visa, how to move into your flat, everything you needed. So I think the most stressful part for me was being coming in so tired and having to move all of my stuff exhausted from the flight. That was my biggest hurdle, I really think. But I came in and I immediately, every opportunity I had to meet people through the university, I took that. And I think that made the transition easier because there was people that I was able to meet and get close with, but also just having people that you know in your building or on the side of the street walking. Manchester is a very walkable city as well, and being from somewhere where you couldn't walk anywhere because it was very rural was great. I love being able to walk everywhere or taking the bus if it's raining too much, is a great transition, and I think was such a lovely place because Manchester they call it a small city, so everyone's walkable, but it's big, but it's small. And I know that's confusing, but it's lovely. And the campus itself is beautiful as well. An old place. I love Christie's Coffee Shop is my favorite place to study and get a coffee. But I also love during exam time, Manchester Business School has very quiet areas. It's very peaceful in the booths and just sitting at the business school was one of my favorite things to do as well.
Got it. And you're pointing out a couple of things that I just want to underline. I mean, one is the schools do provide a lot of sort of onboarding. It sounds like, you got to watch a bunch of webinars online and just to help you with that process. And then even after you arrived, getting you connected with other people in the community. And it sounds like you took advantage of that, which is terrific. And then I do also want to just emphasize, I think this is true for all four cities, but I feel like, as Hannah said, they're small cities, but they're big enough. But you can walk everywhere. They're, student cities. And I think that's really important. And also, I feel like none of them are far from nature either. So if you want to get out, it's not like you're in some giant city where it takes you like an hour fighting through traffic just to leave the city. So that's really good too. Bilal, tell us a little bit about what it was like moving to the UK for you, any surprises, and yeah, favorite spot on campus at Newcastle.
So moving to the UK was actually quite a major change because it was the first time I was moving out of my parents' home. So I didn't really know what to expect. I hadn't like been to Newcastle before, but I heard a lot of stories about how it's a student city and I'll get to experience culture I haven't before. Settling in was actually quite easier than I expected because of the support available for the international students. What surprised me was how organized and student-focused the academic system is, the entire city is, in fact, because again, as you mentioned, it's a student city. If you want to ask me like what's my favorite spot on campus, it's probably going to be my the Philip Robertson Library because it just gives you that sort of environment where you can just stay focused. It's got like multiple stories where you could just like, if you want to have sort of like a social gathering, you can stay on the ground floor. If you want to have independent study time or book a room for a meeting, you can move up to the upper levels. So it's sort of like that place which makes you feel important and gives you that surrounding to study and focus on what you want to focus on.
I love that each of you kind of took this leap of faith and moved to the city that you're studying in without having been. And in some cases, like first time, leaving your home country. I think that says a lot about the caliber of these institutions, and also the fact that all of you then said it's really been easy to make that adjustment is also impressive and probably a testament to what these programs are doing to make that happen. I want to talk a little bit about culture and the community. people talk a lot about the northern part of the United Kingdom as being kind of friendly and a little different than down south. A lot of people have been to places like London. It's a big city, like a New York or something, right? So, how does it feel different, the culture in the cities that you're in, from what you'd expected, or maybe from where you're from originally? Anything you want to highlight? Cerise, we'll start with you again at Edinburgh.
Perfect. Yeah, coming from New York, Edinburgh has been such a nice change. New York is big, it's chaotic, it's busy. And so coming here, it's been a bit of a breath of fresh air. It's been just lovely walking around the streets, and it's such a walkable city. And yeah, it's really just been such a joy being here. And in terms of friendliness, that's definitely been my experience. Edinburgh is such a student-friendly city. Besides the University of Edinburgh, there's Napier's and a handful of other schools here as well. So there's definitely a very young crowd and a very international crowd. So I feel like with that in mind, everyone is eager to meet people and expand their social circles, which is great, especially when you're coming from somewhere else.
Yeah, good point. Carlos, how about you? What are you finding in Leeds? Are people friendly, etc.?
Well, I come from a very chaotic city, just like Greece, and yes, so the fact, for starters, the fact that there's it's so easy to ride a bicycle, walk everywhere. It's such a change to me. I love it. Um, I have only been on London once, so I really don't have a good reference point against North versus South. Nonetheless, compared to my country, yeah, England as a whole doesn't really have a really good reputation when it comes to friendliness. But now Leeds has been wonderful. It's such a friendly city. It treats the students very well. It treats just international students, foreigners, really, really well. I have made really good friends inside and outside the school. I in Just as a whole, I really like the city. It has been a wholesome experience for me.
Oh, that's great to hear. Hannah, how about you? What would you say about folks in the north of the UK? Any thoughts?
Yeah, so I would say Manchester is very friendly. If you have a question, someone is willing to answer if you ask. It is a very student-centered city, but there is a lot of people who aren't students here. Um,
Hmm.
Being from the Midwest, where you talk to everyone and their neighbor constantly, I was nervous that I was going to be that person that talked too much or said too much at the grocery store or things of that nature. But I don't feel that way. I feel like everyone's asking if you're all right. Everyone is chatty in the area, and so I feel very great and welcomed as soon as I moved here, and I still do. People remember you if you have a favorite spot. They ask you how you're doing, how your week was. Even though we're in such a big city, it still feels small and homey, and I absolutely love that.
Got it. All right, excellent. Bilal, how about you? What's been your experience with folks in the north? I hear Newcastle has a reputation specifically, right, for being quite friendly, you know?
Yeah, exactly. North of the UK, especially Newcastle, it has a very strong sense of community. You could say people are quite approachable, supportive, down to earth, which actually made, in my personal experience, which actually made me settling into this place quite easy for me. So,
Mm.
compared to where I'm from, life here feels more structured, independent, especially in terms of management and daily routines, because back home everything was too fast paced and you couldn't really get time for yourself. Over here, it's actually quite different. It's actually quite opposite. Life moves kind of at a slower pace, but at the same time, you can adjust to that. So it's quite uh, like a very silent surrounding, but at the same time, you don't feel alone.
Okay. Oh, interesting. So now this question, I don't know if it'll apply to everyone, but I'm kind of wondering if you guys have taken advantage. One of the things we talk a lot about is that when you're in the UK, you're on the doorstep of so many interesting places to visit. Whether that's even within the UK, like London, or going over to Ireland, or down to the continent. I mean, these are things that really like pretty amazing opportunities. I'm wondering, Reese, have you ventured anywhere while you've been in Edinburgh? I know you've been busy studying probably, but have you had a chance to go anywhere else in Europe and anything exciting that you've visited that you wanted to share?
So far, my travels have I've stuck to the UK. I've gone up to the Isle of Skye, which was so amazing. The hiking there is great. The scenes are just it feels like you're in a movie. And I've actually been down to Leeds as well, and another great city, as I'm sure Carlos has already attested to.
Did you see Carlos when you were down there? Probably not.
No, but I'll have to make another trip and
There
see
you
him
go.
next time.
Excellent. Carlos, how about you? You mentioned London, so maybe have you been down to London? Was that on this since you've been living in Leeds? You went down there, or have you been anywhere else that you want to share?
No, funnily enough, I was in Edinburgh recently during Christmas period, and I really love the city. Like it was amazing, especially the Highlands. Wow. And I have been traveling mostly inside the UK, uh, yeah, York, Liverpool, Manchester, Sheffield, all of these wonderful cities. There's always something to do. I really like architecture, the history, and the museums are amazing. I do plan on going this term to Ireland, hopefully for St. Patrick's Day, if anyone wants to join. Um, and by June, I hope to be able to go to the continent.
Okay, excellent. So you just need to visit Newcastle now because it sounds like you've already
Yeah.
been to Edinburgh and Manchester. Um, all right, Hannah, how about you? Have you managed to get away from campus and visit some places?
Yeah, so I take the train. I've been to quite a few cities in the UK, Liverpool, York. I went to London, day trips as well. Most of the time, you're able to do the day trips. I've not been to Edinburgh yet, but that's on my Easter vacation list. And I have traveled through Europe quite a bit. I did Portugal, Germany, Amsterdam. Did a few weekend trips, reading week trips, and then Christmas. So it's being in Manchester, it's an international airport, so it's super quick to get on a flight.
Now, I thought you were supposed to be studying during these reading weeks,
Well,
not
your
going off
computer
to.
goes with you.
No, yeah, that sounds great. No, it is really, I mean, it is interesting because the continent is so connected. I think sometimes, particularly Americans, don't understand how close, when we say like if you live in Philadelphia and you're going to go to Boston for the weekend, that's like saying you live in Paris and you're going to go to Berlin for the weekend. I mean, it really is. And so these things are really close. There's lots of things to see and do. And you guys are all pointing out the trains are really well connected too, which is a little different than the U.S. And maybe I don't know actually enough about the train system in Mexico or Pakistan, but I'm guessing the UK has pretty good trains and Europe as well. This is going to be a fun question, and feel free to. I mean, this is. We'll start with Reese again, but this one's about traditions, like UK traditions, celebrations, or even festivals you've taken part in. Has there been anything that you've like picked up, something you really like about this new culture that you're experiencing, or like even phrases that you've kind of incorporated into your lexicon of what you say regularly? So yeah, just take us through, Reese, anything that you want to share about that kind of cultural experience of being in the UK.
Sure. So I was here for New Year's, or as they call it here in Scotland, Hogmanay, which was a wonderful celebration. They do a torchlight procession from the meadows up to the castle. So it's about a mile long walk, and it's just a sea of people carrying torches, which was a very fun experience to take part in. And then also seeing the fireworks above the castle. And then the day after New Year's, they have live music playing all throughout the city. They call it the first footing, which was very fun as well. So it was a few, I think like a 3 or 4 day long festival here. And then they also had Christmas markets on top of that. Besides that, I've also loved going to Cayleys, which are these like folk music, dancing, social events. There's usually a
Hmm.
caller that'll teach you all the moves to the dances, and then you just take part in it, and it's a ton of fun.
All right, excellent. Let's turn to Carlos. How about you? Anything like that you've picked up on culturally or something you've enjoyed, celebration,
Uh,
celebration, etc.
I really like the markets as well. Christmas market were a really nice surprise. Uh, Also, again, Edinburgh during Christmas, the light shows really nice, fireworks amazing. I was actually quite surprised to see that 5th of November is actually a thing with the firework night. It was quite fun. And for what is worth, I have become very fond of fish and chips. So there's that.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a classic classic dish. All right, let's turn to Hannah. Tell us a little bit about your kind of cultural awakenings here in the UK.
Yeah, so I was going to mention November 5th that I was told about the fireworks, but I was surprised by the amount of celebration that happens on that day. And actually today is Pancake Day in the UK, which is new for me. I know in the US we call it Fat Tuesday, but it's
Ah.
Pancake Day, so I'm actually celebrating this evening by making pancakes with my flatmates. Another big one that just happened, I know it's not specific to the UK, but Lunar New Year is big in Manchester. And so last night was a very big celebration and over the weekend. And so that was a lot of fun to celebrate. And the Christmas markets were great in Manchester as well.
Yeah, there's so much. This is, yeah, now I need to go to the UK. You guys are definitely getting me excited to go and visit again. Bilal, tell me a little bit about your experiences in Newcastle and yeah, anything cultural that you've enjoyed engaging in or picked up on.
So I wasn't really familiar with bonfire nights and Christmas markets before I came to the UK, so that was sort of like a cultural shock, but I really enjoyed those. Other than that, there were a few British phrases which I picked up, like fair enough and you're right, which was actually quite confusing for the first couple of times I heard it because it's a greeting, not a question. So yeah, that was sort of confusing for me, but over time I got used to it.
Excellent. All right, so now a little more serious. I do want to ask you guys a little bit about kind of career planning. And so, Reese, we'll go to you. This question's about just like, have you yet made any use of the business school has a career center where they help folks find jobs? And I just wondered, like, are you working alongside your studies? Because I know you're allowed to work while you're studying in the UK. That's sort of part of the student visa allows you to work part time. So, yeah, looking ahead, like, have you thought about what you might do after graduation and do you see yourself maybe staying in the UK or what tell us a little bit about that? So any part-time work you're doing now and what you're planning for the future.
Perfect. Yeah. So right now I work part-time as a student ambassador, and I have made use of the school's career services. At the University of Edinburgh, the business school has their own dedicated career services team, and then we also have broader university support, which has been great. I've definitely they organize a lot of great talks, workshops to expand skill sets. Um, they provide advice on CVs, help you prep for interviews. So those have all been services I've taken advantage of, especially as I'm kind of beginning my career search as my program ends end of August. So kind of starting to make steps there in terms of where I see myself. That's still a bit of an unknown at this point. I have loved living here and would love to stay here longer, but there are obviously complications there, and it's just a bit more complex to stay here.
Mhm. Now, if I understand correctly, you can stay for a certain period of time automatically, right? Just by the sheer fact that you're doing the degree there. I believe it's 18 months. Is that correct?
Um, I believe so. I think there's a graduate visa that you can apply for as
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good luck as you sort of figure these things out. Carlos, how about you? Have you been working part-time while studying? And if so, what have you been doing? And do you have any plans post-graduation that you've been sort of working through? And have you kind of connected with the career services function at the school?
Yeah, just like Grace, I work as a school ambassador. That has been my part-time job, and also I have tried to deal with these little side projects at school in order to try to get more experience in this new career path I'm taking. Um, just like Edinburgh, the University of Leeds has a broad career center, but also the business school has a specially catered unique career center, which have have guided me to kind of sort of my CV and clean it up, make it pretty for UK standards, have been really useful. Um, right now, I would love to stay here if I could through academically work, a PhD, hopefully. Um, but yeah, I would love to stay here. Honestly, love the country, love the opportunities, and I hope that uh, fingers crossed, so everything goes well.
All right. It's nice to hear so far both of you are saying you'd want to stay, which I think is another sort of a testament to how you've been welcomed in these cities and at these universities. Hannah, tell us a little bit about, are you working part-time? What are your plans post-graduation, and have you used the Career Center on campus?
So I am also a student ambassador, and just like everyone else said, Alliance Manchester, the business school has its own dedicated career services, and I have used it to update my CV to look more UK style. And I've gone to a few workshops that they have, especially related to visas after graduation, things of that nature. Grad schemes. I learned about those when I first arrived. Everything starts as soon as you arrive. You don't wait until you graduate to take advantage of career services. And that was something that I was told before coming. And so I started taking advantage right away. And I think that that's the most helpful thing that has happened. And I feel very prepared. I want to stay, I want to specifically stay in Manchester if possible. So my goal is looking for jobs in business psychology in Manchester specifically.
So when you say, I want to make sure everyone understands this. When you say grad schemes, you're talking about sort of like leadership development programs, or kind of hiring programs that companies, have to bring people in post study.
Yes, so grad schemes are specific for recent graduates. It is usually a 2 or 3 year program, depending on where you get to, and it's usually bigger companies that have grad schemes. It's a very competitive but very rewarding opportunity for students, and they really give you all of the information right away to take advantage. So you apply before deadlines and make those cuts so you can get your CV and applications in as soon as possible for these 2 or 3 year programs.
Okay. Yeah. So kind of, I think in America, we call that sort of structured recruiting, or kind of leadership development programs. And yeah, often at big companies. It's great to know they're doing that in the UK too. Sounds like you've been hit the ground running, as you point out. Let's turn to Bilal. Tell us a little bit about your situation. Have you worked? I guess everyone on this, joining us today is by virtue, I guess, an ambassador for your school. So that's something you're doing. But tell us a little bit about, yeah, your kind of career search and where that stands.
So yeah, as you mentioned, I am a student ambassador for my school, and I've actually engaged with the business school career service for guidance on career planning and employability. Actually, a couple of times they have different seminars, they have different sessions. You can even book them in advance. They're always available over there. So yeah, I've taken advantage of that. I have formatted my CV multiple times after consulting them, and it's actually coming up to quite good use as I'm applying for internships and placements. So looking ahead, my goal is to actually work in a project management role where I can apply what I've learned in a professional setting, and I'm definitely open to staying in the UK if the right opportunity aligns with my career goals. Which I actually might think how, which I think might actually happen soon.
Okay. Oh, that's terrific. Yeah, it sounds like all of you are getting really good support at your institutions, which is great to hear. I have two more questions for you guys. We'll see if we can do this and wrap it all up in the hour here that we have allocated. But the next one is about kind of campus life. So just briefly, like Reese, what are you like? Are you in any clubs or societies, as they often call them in the UK, or are you playing any sports? Like, just tell us briefly anything you're involved in outside of the classroom in that regard.
Definitely. I did end up joining the Wine Society, which has been a lot of fun. We have over 300 student societies at the University of Edinburgh. So there's one for just about anything from
Oh, wow.
trampolining to yoga to archery. So you'll definitely find something you'll like if you end up coming here and joining a society. And if you don't, then you can create your own. And it's a pretty easy process there as well.
Right. You probably don't want to mix the trampolining and wine society. That might be a bad idea, right? So,
Sounds a bit dangerous.
all right, Carlos, how about you at Leeds? Are you involved in any kind of campus societies or activities like that?
Yeah, and I was pretty surprised about the amount of societies that are here. Pretty much like Reese mentioned, there's a society, a club for anything you like. Right now, I participate mostly with two. One is United Nations type of debate society and a fencing society.
Oh,
Because
wow.
it's actually quite a sport here in my country. It's quite niche, so here I can try it with more easily. So I have been enjoying it a lot.
Oh, that's great. That sounds like a lot of fun. Hannah, how about you? Any outside activities you've been engaged in or societies you've joined?
Yes, so just like everywhere else, there's a ton of societies for everything. I am part of the mature student society, which is nice because you get the older students who are kind of going back to school after doing some sort of job in between, as well
Hmm.
as part of the book club, which is fun because we read books, or most of us read books, and then we get together and we talk about it, and then we talk about other things, and then we do other activities. So it's a lot of fun.
Okay, excellent. Bilal, how about you?
Well, there are over 180 societies at Newcastle University, and I was actually quite surprised when I got here. I mean, it covers everything, literally everything. So you have societies with different nationalities, you have political view society. I personally joined the debating society, and yes, it's actually helped my confidence quite a lot with my leadership skills and everything. It's actually been quite amazing.
All right, well, next time we'll have Carlos and you debate since Carlos is also involved in a debate related society. Um, Last question for each of you, and this one's really important. People who join today or who watch this after the fact are really thinking about embarking on this journey. And I wondered if you could give a little bit of advice. So Reese, what's like one piece of advice you would give someone who's considering a specialized master's in business in the UK, and like to help them just think through taking that leap? Because obviously all of you have taken that leap. You all seem really happy. But yeah, what advice would you give to somebody?
Besides just going for it, I think the as a master's student, you have a lot of control to shape your experience to how you want it. No one's gonna force you to use the career services, force you to join societies, force you to participate in class or do readings. But I think the more you engage in all those things, the more you can get out of the program, both socially, academically, career development wise. Um, and the flexibility and control you have there to decide what matters to you and what you want to get out of this experience. You have a lot of control there to shape this to however you want it to be for you.
Okay. Carlos, how about you? What advice would you give to someone who's thinking about taking the leap?
Um, I would say the same. Like the go-to advice will be just do it. I don't think anyone here has regretted the decision. I do understand that probably the biggest concern one might have is what if this is not my thing? What if I make a mistake and then you make this big compromise? I would say like still do it. Um, in my experience, careers are in a big part forged by the people you meet, and just by coming into these um, university cities in the UK, you will meet a lot of different people who will help you get the career you want to create. So for me, it's there's no mistake in coming.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Hannah, how about you? What's your one piece of advice you would give to someone who's thinking about this?
I would say that even though it can be scary and you're nervous and not sure what to expect, that the most you put into it, and if you go for it full force, you will get the best experience and the best outcome. And I hate to say it, but if you don't like it, it only lasts a year, so you can pivot in a year. But it is quite it can be the best experience. Put as much into it as you can, and you will get some great friendships, great learning opportunities out of it. And it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. I know that kind of is cliche, but it really is, and it's so worth it.
Yeah, it certainly feels like it. Bilal, how about you? What would be a piece of advice you would give?
So my advice would be to be clear about your goals and be ready for an intensive experience if you're planning to come on to the UK. A specialized master's degree in the UK, it moves quite quickly, but it develops practical and career-ready skills. So if you're motivated and willing to take ownership of your learning, it's a very worthwhile step because in the long run, you're not just here for the degree, you're here for an experience as well. So that all adds into it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, one thing I'm hearing kind of as we've gone through this is, we often talk about something with regards to studying in the UK. We talk about the five C's, and you guys have been, I don't know if you've done this on purpose, but you've been underlining each of them. So for me, the five C's in this instance are, we talked about caliber, right? So the caliber of a Russell Group institution, which each of you are attending. We talked about, Hannah just said commitment. It's only a year, right? So, which has, kind of it's efficient, and a really nice way to get a degree. We talk about cost, which kind of goes with the fact that it's a 1 year thing, but the cost of the cities you live in not being very elevated as well. We also talk about culture, right? So you all have had this great kind of cultural immersion. And then the last thing we talk about is, career, right? So we've talked a little bit about career opportunities and the fact that you can potentially stay in the UK and that you all have the support that you need from the school and the career centers in sort of helping you to guide you as you sort of travel through the degree and look at job opportunities. I think each of you talked about sprucing up your resume with the help of the career center and looking into all the opportunities that are out there. So yeah, really appreciate each of you kind of taking time today to talk about your experience. I know this will be so helpful for others who are kind of going to follow in your footsteps. So Reese, Carlos, Hannah, and Bilal, thank you so much for all of your time today. It's just been great getting to know each of you a little bit and hear your stories. And I would encourage you, if you guys end up in each other's cities next time, look each other up because now you've been on a panel together and you can debate or hang out or, Carlos can show you how to fence, whatever you want to do. But really appreciate y'all making time today and shedding light on this process for so many who are going to watch this video after the fact. And yeah, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna